Today we're going to look at one of the most common mistakes that I hear every single day. If I asked you, how long have you been living in wherever you live, so how long have you been living in London, how would you answer this question? What I often hear is, I am living in London for 3 years. So I often hear the present continuous tense, or I live in London for 3 years. But these are both wrong. If you want to talk about how long you've been doing something, you need to use the present perfect tense. I have been living in London, or I have lived in London for 3 years. And then there are a couple of ways to express how long you've been doing whatever it is. And the first way is the one I used in the previous example with the word for. I have been living in London for 3 years. The other way is using the word since. I have been living in London since 2014. So what's the difference between since and for? Well, with for, we're talking about a duration of time, for 3 years, for 6 months, for 20 years. Whereas the word since is all about a fixed moment in the past. I have been living in London since 2014, since January, for example. If you want to talk about something that started in the past, an action which started and then finished, then you use the past simple tense. For example, I moved to London in 2012. Or we can also use the word ago. I moved to London 5 years ago. Let's have a look at a few examples from my life. So let's talk about how long I've been driving. So you can ask the question, how long have you been driving? And I would say, I have been driving since 2015, or I have been driving for 2 years. So for with a duration of time, and since with a fixed date in the past. Or I could say, I started driving 2 years ago, or I started driving in 2015. This is a moment in the past, a finished action, so we can use ago. Let me ask you some questions now to practice using these words correctly. So try and answer these questions using for, using since, and using the present perfect tense. So the first question I'll ask is, how long have you been living in wherever you live? How long have you been living there? So remember, for, and then a duration of time, for 3 years, for 10 years, whatever. And since, with a fixed moment in the past, since 2013. The next question, how long have you been working for your current company, if you work for a company? How long have you been working at the shop, for example? Answer that question. And the final one, how long have you been learning English? So hopefully that gives you a clearer understanding of when to use since and when to use for, because they are different in other languages.